right? I want to move on to another story. Scott Ritter. Scott Ritter. In full transparency, I contacted Ritter because I wanted to have a conversation with Ritter about some of the things that Ritter has been saying, especially on the issue of Iran. I had a conversation with Morandi. Him and I talked about it. Morandi gave his point of view. I wanted to bring Ritter on in full transparency to have a conversation. Ritter will no longer come on this show. And he said, paraphrasing, I have decided to basically overhaul whose shows I go on to. And effectively, your show isn't one of them that I'm coming on to. Fair enough. Ritter has every right. It's his choice, just like it's my choice on whose show to go on to. That said, since I don't have him on the show, I would use the previous interview that he had with Glenn Deason as my framework to discuss his, let's say, evolution in point of view that he has effectively taken on the issue of Gaza, but specifically in this case, on the issue of Iran. Scott Ritter has lost the plot. He's lost his mind. I would tell you at the radio station, we used to laugh at some of the things that Ritter would say, because this is the same person who would say stuff like, the war is going to be over with in 3 months, 3 years ago, which is something that Mark often alludes to when he's making fun of Ritter, even though he doesn't use his name. I don't know why his point of view has changed. I don't know why he's decided not to come on my show. His last episode got like 50,000 views. But to be fair, the comments were demonstratively negative. Demonstratively negative. By the same token, every show that Ritter has gone on and said this stuff, the comments have been negative. So I don't know if that's it. I don't know if it's the view count. I don't know if he just doesn't like me all that much. No clue. No clue. I would like to go into some of the things that he was saying before my guest gets here. First and foremost, before I get into what Ritter is saying about Iran, we should start at the premise that what Ritter is countenancing here, what he's implying, and not just implying, explicitly saying, is that the United States will go into an unprovoked nuclear war against Iran, a non-nuclear country, on the premise that it is trying to get a nuclear weapon, something that the US has said itself that they are not trying to do, and that the US and Israel has been claiming that they've been trying to do for 30 years, even though Tulsi Gabbard, part of this government, has said they are not doing that. So we are talking about an unprovoked nuclear war against a non-nuclear power for the behest of Israel, a nuclear state, by the way, that has gone on a genocidal rampage and invaded all of its neighbors, murdering people en masse. That is the premise that we're talking about, that Ritter is effectively arguing for, by the way. He would say, well, I'm not saying it's right. Okay, fair enough. But this is the exact same premise that George Bush used to invade Iraq and to slaughter 1 million people. When Ritter was in that position, he took issue with the fact that the United States was asserting the right to go in and blow up and destroy Iraq. In this case, he seems to be making the argument that, well, this is what Trump is going to do, so this is what Trump is going to do. Under that model, how are you arguing about George Bush doing the same thing? I just want to start that. That is the basic premise. Iran hasn't invaded anybody. Israel has invaded everybody. Iran is not trying to get a nuke, even by our own assessments. Israel has nukes. That is the context to this entire conversation, right? All right, let's start. So this is the first comment. Glenn Deason, you can check out the interview yourself. 2 minutes, 49 seconds. All right, let's start here. I'm slightly aggravated with this because I would have rather had the conversation with Ritter about it. And since he's not here, I can only go by what he says in the video. And what he says in this video is outlandish. And Glenn Deason at no point pushes back. At no point says, wait, are you sure about that? Is that right? Should they do that? He just nods and agrees. Let's play the clip.
Many people in Iran that believe that they could ride this out. I think what's happening, though, is that Iran is being told by um, the regional players and by international partners and international players whom they interact with that Trump isn't bluffing, that this is genuinely a real threat, almost an existential threat to Iran. Um, and I think we might see Iran find a way to a negotiating position. I don't think it'll be direct negotiations between Iran and the United States. I think this will be done through a third party, maybe Russia, maybe China. But I think there's a growing realization in Iran that this is different and that there will have to be some sort of negotiated outcome.
All right. First thing, Iran did negotiate with the United States. It was called the JCPOA. The JCPOA was signed by the US and other international players. Trump violates it almost immediately. Iran stuck with the deal. Everybody agrees that they were sticking with the deal. He, in this interview, agrees that Iran was sticking with the deal. They stuck with the deal for a year after Donald Trump pulled out of the deal. So this idea that, well, they would need to negotiate, they did that. That was done. Trump himself pulled out of that particular agreement. As regards to the existential threat and saying that they're not bluffing, okay, even if Trump is not bluffing, let's be very clear again, an unprovoked nuclear attack on a non-nuclear player at the behest of Israel, a nuclear power that is on a genocidal rampage. Iran hasn't invaded anybody. Israel has, and Israel has nukes. Iran is not trying to get a nuke, even by own assessments. Israel has nukes. Trump doing this. How is this okay? How is this okay? Let's keep going. And again, in the same position with Iraq, Scott disagreed with the premise of the US. Whereas here, he seems to be advocating for Iran to negotiate under this threat, as opposed to saying, this is outlandish. This is outrageous. How is the US considering doing this? And then making an argument that's an existential threat to the US or to Iran misses the point that this will be disastrous for the world and for America itself. How do you not factor that into your equation? In your condemnation of Donald Trump on this, there's no condemnation of what Donald Trump is doing here. This seems to be a complete acquiescence to, oh, well, Trump is going to do this. Oh, well. Oh, well. Okay. Why didn't you have that oh, well position with George Bush? Let's keep going. Let's go to 6 minutes. All right. On minute
If Iran wants
6, all right, here. Oh, come on. All right, minute 6. I'll edit this out later. Okay.
monitoring of Iran's centrifuge capabilities. I think what's important here is that Iran, what killed the agreement last time was that the agreement was predicated on the notion that Iran was going to be slapped with this 1-year breakout window. And that was a time frame that was deemed acceptable by the United States and its Western partners, that if Iran chose to violate the JCPOA, which they didn't, but if they chose to violate it would take them a year to acquire sufficient fissile material to produce a nuclear weapon.
Again, let's get our history straight. What ended the agreement was that Trump pulled out. No. Trump pulled out. That is what ended the JCPOA. Nothing else. Trump did it. Don't put this on Iran. Trump pulled out of the agreement. Let's keep going. 1409. I got to go through this pretty quick because my guest is about to come on. 1409 is, come on. Right here. All right.
First of all, understand this. We are not on equal planes, the United States and Iran. Now, I'm going to say this, and everybody's going to jump down my throat and call me an imperialist and all this. But the United States is the United States, and Iran is Iran, and we're not equals. That's just the reality of the situation. We do get to dictate outcomes, and we are dictating an outcome right now. Iran doesn't get to dictate this outcome. You say that their nuclear threshold status.
Okay, so under that model, there is no such thing as sovereign governments. If that's true, the US can take Greenland. He shouldn't be bitching about the Iraq war. He shouldn't be bitching about the jihadists taking over Syria, because after all, if they have the power to do it, then they have the power to do it. Might makes right. Power in and of itself is an excuse for whatever you're going to do. If the US wants to take Canada, the US can take Canada. That is an outrageous proposition to argue. The US is the US. We get to dictate outcomes. So, hey, I'm sorry for your sovereignty. You don't get sovereignty in this case. That is an outrageous statement. That statement is so ludicrous and that is an astonishing statement. It is a rules-based order statement. We set the rules, you all follow them. You do not get any notion of sovereignty at all. Your sovereignty doesn't matter to us. We can dictate terms. Under that model, Trump could say, I want to fuck the Ayatollah in Tehran, and I want everybody to watch on TV. That's what I want to do. This is what I think of the Ayatollah, according to Scott Ritter. That makes no sense. Are you really making that argument? Power in and of itself is enough. An excuse. We get to dictate outcomes 10,000 miles away. And by the way, Iran is no threat to us. Iran is a threat to Israel. And just like Wesley Clark pointed out, one government after the next is going to fall. And Iran being the last government. Netanyahu, that thuggish war criminal, is in the United States right now. Trump is rolling out the red carpet for him. Netanyahu has been agitating for the United States to attack and bomb Iran for the last 30 years, claiming they're going to get a nuke tomorrow. They're going to get a nuke tomorrow. And at no point does Iran have nukes, or did they get nukes? Under Ritter's model, the US can do it because the US can do it. Now, understand, there's consequences for the US doing this. And the notion that there won't be political consequences for the US dropping nukes unprovoked is an astonishing assessment. By any measure, it's an astonishing assessment. When Ritter was on the show and he came up with these ideas, oh, we'll attack them and they can't do anything else, I told him, you're out of your mind. Military people come up with these assessments all the time, and usually they're wrong. One last clip. I'm sorry. 4 minutes. Carl, hold on for me. Give me one moment. I got to finish this. All right. 23 minutes in, Ritter points out that the U.S. will wage an unprovoked nuclear war on Iran on behalf of Israel. No, I shit you not. That is what he's saying.
I think if they go that route, you're probably looking at the United States trying to achieve some sort of regime change activity, and that you would see similar strikes against Iran's underground command and control, where the leadership would have withdrawn in Mashhad outside of Tehran. And if these are of the nature that they can't be destroyed with conventional munitions, then the low yield penetrating nuclear weapons would be used as well. I don't believe that this is going to be a drawn out, months long campaign. I think this is going to be an extremely short, violent, nation killing event by the United States. And I believe that if it's going to fit that definition, that the United States would have to use the nuclear weapons designed for this purpose. That's
the U.S. will wage an unprovoked nuclear war on a country of 80 to 90 million people on behalf of Israel. That is an astonishing assessment. And it will be short, violent, nation killing, and even Iran won't get the opportunity to respond. Now, later in this interview, and I'm not going to show the clip because Carl is here, he points out, he says, this will be a disaster for everybody. The world economy will take a hit from this, especially if Iran gets the capability and being able to respond. So, under your model, you're going to kill tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people in an unprovoked war of aggression by the United States on a country that does not have a nuclear missile, is not trying to get a nuclear weapon. And even if they were, by the way, this still wouldn't be justified, but whatever. On a country that does not have nukes, killing untold numbers of people, destroying the world economy in the process. And the response for Ritter is effectively to argue almost on behalf of the Trump administration that, hey, Iran should just give up its nuclear program. What else should they give up under threat? The ballistic program. If you're making this argument of, we get to dictate terms, ballistic missiles, support for Hezbollah and regional Axis powers. What else should they do? Should they also offer to be able to fuck the Ayatollah? What about Pezeshkian? He might have a sweet ass. Maybe you should fuck him too in Tehran. Like, if U.S. get to dictate outcomes, that's across the board, right? Issues of sovereignty don't matter, right? I've always said there's no such thing as international law, so fair enough. I'm not even going to bring that in. I'm pointing out it is outrageous to believe that the Trump administration is correct here in saying that they are going to destroy the world economy on behalf of Israel. It is an outrageous position that Scott Ritter is taking here. Outrageous. He has lost the plot. This is unhinged. This is not the position he was taking when he was the weapons inspector in Iraq. He was against the U.S. position on this and arguing against the U.S. position as to now, for whatever rationale, is completely taking the Trump position on this. Ritter's take